The following content is brought to you by MYND Initiative Incorporated. The opinions expressed in the following conversation are of the hosts and do not in any way represent the opinions of MYND Initiative as a whole. Some themes in this series may be distressing or triggering for some listeners, and so viewer discretion is advised. If any of the content does trigger uncomfortable feelings or cause distress, we encourage you to reach out to us via our Facebook page or seek further support from beyondblue.org or contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 for 24/7 over-the-phone support. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we all stand, and we extend our respect to the elders, both past and present.
Good evening. Welcome to Does It Mess With Your Mind? I'm your host, Jason, here with my co-host, Hashida. How are you tonight, Hashida?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am very good, and I hope everyone that is watching is very good too. We are going to talk about part 2 of boundaries tonight. And we're going to look at like personal boundaries and what they're like in our personal lives and what those boundaries might look like, and how we enact them, and hopefully that gives you some stepping stones on how you take some boundaries in your own life. How does that sound, Hashida?
That sounds great.
Awesome. So, personal boundaries to deal with more around people in our life, like our family, our friends, relatives, the creepy uncle at the Christmas party, all of that kind of stuff. How do we deal with them? Because generally with them, emotions come into play quite a lot. When it's a work relationship and it's kind of business and you say no, well, you can kind of say, well, I need to do this because of, X, Y, Z. But in a personal kind of sense, someone in your personal life will take offense to you not wanting them in your life. So how do you actually deal with that? Hashida, can you think of a scenario that someone might have put up in your personal life that caused you to want to put up a boundary?
I can think of many scenarios actually, all through my life. One thing I find difficult saying no to, and it's kind of a developing thing, is saying no to unwanted advice. Sometimes that's actually encroaching my personal boundary. uh, if I need advice, I really have a voice and a way to approach you. And I mean, most of the times I just want to be heard. I'm not looking for advice. And what I'd like to tell people is, don't try to, and this is again something that'll come up when we in our future episodes too, trying to solve a problem which you think is or what is wrong with them. But what I'd like to kind of have a boundary is, don't approach people and say, okay, this is what you're doing, this is who you are, and offer a solution. Wait for that person, try to understand what the person is trying to say, and then if the person needs a solution, provide it to them. Otherwise, for me, that's again, crossing a boundary for me. It kind of takes me quite, it's one of those things that's a strict no with me. And some people understand it when I say no. And sometimes what's happened is, if it's not somebody who I know very well and the person's crossed the boundary and it's a couple of times, I find it very difficult to continue that relationship. So at the end of the day, we all want to be happy. We all want to be in relationships that make us grow and probably teach us something, and we can always learn from people. So this is my view of life, that I always get an opportunity to learn with every interaction I have. But if you're going to encroach on my personal space, so this is one thing that I can think of, and then then I'm not going to learn anything from them, because it's going to annoy me and it's going to bug me later, and it's going to affect my time in any way, and I don't want anything that will affect me that way. So, but then there are also people who take feedback well, and those people I really love, because if I say, okay, something's making me, I can always say, this is making me uncomfortable, or maybe I'm not ready to share that space with you yet. Maybe there is something that's bothering me for which I require help, but I may not be ready to share that space with you yet. So that's an interesting, actually, this question is very interesting in another way, Jason. I was actually watching a program about Are You Okay? And, having conversations. So even if you see somebody not up down, someone who you interact with very closely down, you always have to watch out for that, the kind of state the person is in. It's that concept of space, where you are, what that person is possibly going through, how you're going to put forth the question. All these things matter, and it is applicable in every phase of life. Everything you experience as an individual. And then you can, my personal view, I can't say you cannot go and influence a person's journey, but it goes with this saying again: you can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink it. And you can't make me do things that I don't want to do, or I'm not willing to do. So understand what space that person is in, and take cues. It doesn't, I may be somebody who's capable of saying no to you, but take cues from other, in terms of body language and other things. There are a lot of people who can't say no to a thing. You just see them shifting, and some people get upset, they close up, or the different things happen. So we need to start taking those cues, and then go slow. So this is one boundary, I think is very important, that people recognize this. It is, for me at least, it is very important. And like I said, it is a work in progress, because I still get affected by people thinking that this is what I'm going through, and then offering a solution and following up with the same solution again and again. So we're just taking it a bit further, but it's not helping me in any way, because after a while my mind just shuts down. So that's maybe a defense mechanism, because nothing good is coming out of that. So sorry, Jason, I went on and on about that answer. So can you think of what is
Actually,
your
I
what
like that answer. And there was two things that I took out of that answer, and one of those things were that you're putting across people speaking on your behalf, like they have a greater strength in a certain area, so they feel like they should jump in and speak on your behalf or offer criticism because they feel that they're stronger in that kind of area, or they're qualified to give you that criticism. But the way how you handle a certain situation might be your particular strength. So in a difficult situation, your calm manner and the way how you communicate might give people reassurance, but someone else might see that as you're not taking control of the situation. So they might want to jump in and be really aggressive and force the other person to back down. It depends on that scenario that you're in, but that other person actually needs to recognize that if they're not needed to put their strength forward, then they're actually hindering you and they're pushing down on your own strengths to control the situation in the way that you want. And that was a big thing that I guess I was taking out of what you were saying there. And it definitely affects you the way how you said that people do it because they do it without your permission. They're just pushing their strength forward and going, I'm stronger than you in this. And that's not exactly what you want. Your strengths are your own strengths and you use them in your own way. And when you find a weakness, it's up to you to ask someone to help you out, or if you just want them to sit back while you work on that weakness. And because the only way you're going to get stronger in a weak point is by exercising it. So yeah,
I, I can think of a classic example here, Jason.
yeah,
When we learned to walk, right, we fell down many times. And, parents were close by, they'd help us up. But falling down was part of, again, learning to walk. It's as simple as that. Now, this brings me to another thing, in terms of personal boundaries. So, um, maybe you can talk more to this, but let me just bring this up. Boundaries between parents and children as they grow up, as they become adults. You need to sometimes learn when to back off and when to interfere. Since I don't have children of my own, I'm going to open this up to you, Jason, and maybe I can talk about a couple of things I've noticed as well. I mean, nothing I say here is a general thing. It's like some specific instances here. People do a great job with parenting, and it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. But then, every relationship has its own boundaries. When you cross them, right, it leads to a lot of even confusion, frustration, whatever you want to name it. It leads to a lot of emotions, not all of them positive. So, Jason,
Yes.
yeah, let me hear from you.
So I won't. I'll say more brothers because I have brothers. More than arguments with parents. My parents have passed a little bit a while ago now, so arguments with them are kind of further back in the brain, and I don't really remember them. Like we've had arguments as you do with your parents and stuff. Um, but siblings, as you grow older, like when you're young, you'll get into like a bit of a wrestle or something like that if you got brothers and stuff. But as you get older and you have your own families and everyone gets bigger and tougher, you can't exactly get in the same kind of wrestles because you tend to hurt each other more. And the things that you are looking for in your own lives are different. Like when you're kids, you don't really care about what political persuasion your brothers are. They don't care. But when you get older and, you're both talking about how you run your lives, one of you might be a business owner and one of you might work for a business and then you see politics different, or one of you might work in the homeless sector and the other one works as a builder, and you might see things totally different because as a builder you might go, there's so many people out there that just aren't working and putting in money and everything else, and you're working in the homeless sector and you're going, well, actually they can't actually work because of such and such and such and such. But that person doesn't, your brother doesn't want to hear it because what they see from their perception is something totally different to yours. And there's that judgment there. And I guess when we're talking about boundaries, we need to understand that we always say, be prepared to stand in another person's shoes. But it's not just standing in the other person's shoes, it's also standing in your shoes and understanding whether you're judging your family based on your own perspective, because you've grown different lives, you're doing different things, and it's really about taking that judgment out and appreciating someone else's point of view for what they've lived through, um, which is a big thing. But if they're pushing it onto you, like you should have the same views, then you know that you have to put your boundaries up and say, hey, I appreciate your position, but I don't agree. And my life is my own values, so I'm going to go with what I agree with. But, keep, if that's your opinion, that's yours. I don't want to hear it anymore. That kind of thing. Um, and, if your opinions are so different, you might have to accept that that relationship can't continue anymore because it just leads to distress for you. There's the whole part of wanting the relationship, and wanting something you can't have brings out suffering. So sometimes it's about just appreciating what you had when you had it and maybe grieving for it and moving on.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, in general, if I have to say this, then anything forced is not right.
Yeah.
It has to be, everybody is entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to live life the way they want to, and they're entitled to their own beliefs. So, if you're convincing someone with, if you're saying something, the person is willing to absorb that, is convinced, and wants to follow your opinion, that's fine. If not, there's always, an option that you can differ and then agree to differ. But yeah, and nothing should be forced. Even if some staying in some place is toxic, I think like all relationships, sometimes you have to let go of it, and I'm totally aligned with you on that.
Yeah.
Now we kind of, even when boundaries come, physical boundaries is such, personal boundaries is such a vast word. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. Maybe we should briefly touch upon physical boundaries as well. In terms of any sexual advances, there is always consent involved there, and
Yes.
you have every right to say no. You have every right to decide if that relationship or that particular situation is appropriate for you. And as children, we have parents looking over us, and if there are situations where you need support, then reach out to parents or carers or whoever the case may be. But as adults also, every bit of the way, we have right to say no. And and I don't think there is a way, there is a fancy word for no in that situation. No means no.
Yeah.
And that's what.
I think in that kind of way, like we've come from a culture that has been very forward in um, flirting and putting yourself forward and drunken and just things have happened. And now we're in a culture where we kind of talk about consent and we don't get blind rotten drunk at the BNS balls anymore. So what's expected of us when we're dating or even in like that kind of relationship is just totally different. I think we need to probably that personal kind of touch of talking to people, of being able to flirt and be playful, and interact into that with consent will help you to actually find out whether it's okay or not. I think there's a lot of fear coming from asking and getting rejected, so people just don't ask and then they go and do something, and then that's just not okay. Um, so, yeah, personal relationships, you always have to respect someone else's boundaries, and that goes with being a carer and working in the disability space. Like, if you're caring for someone and they need help in a shower, well, they don't want you just to push your help in helping them in the shower. They're going to ask you that they need help. And they're going to ask you when to come in at the appropriate time to help them. Um, if you're forcing yourself into that situation, you're forcing someone to get dressed into certain clothes or something like that because you believe that they should be wearing those kind of clothes and stuff. You're pushing your boundaries there, and you're not respecting the other person's personal space. You're not respecting that other person's personal boundaries. It's a human right to be able to make choices, unless they're going to do harm to themselves by making that particular choice. Then you have to respect that their choice is there. I mean, you can talk to them about the dignity of risk, and if you wear this pink colored shirt out to a gay bar, you might get hit on by other people of the same sex. Oh, okay, all right, whatever. I'm still going to wear the pink shirt because I like the pink shirt and I'm willing to take that risk. Big whoop. But um, you have to let that person take the decision.
Yes. And I just want to add one more thing. A yes can change to a no at any point in time.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Yeah.
needs to be respected.
Yeah.
So,
If you do wear that pink shirt to the bar and you say no lots of times, well, you expect people to respect you saying no. I mean, you wore the pink shirt because it was a pink shirt that you liked. That doesn't mean that people get to force themselves onto you because you're wearing a pink shirt.
yes. And there's another tricky topic which I don't want to get into fully here.
Yeah.
But then there are situations when teasing gets ugly and then it becomes harassment. So if you see, and here, I don't know if the person will directly say no, but if you see the person squirming, feeling uncomfortable, pick up on the body language, you have to stop right there. You can't take it any further because,
Yeah. The common one there would be, oh, you're frigid. You're not why aren't you like giving me access or something like that? Why aren't you sexier or something like that? And that's, that teasing of come on, let me in, don't be frigid, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's not cool. Um, a person will get there when they're comfortable. Other teasing of, you know, peer pressure. Come on, let's go and swim in the beach at night time. We're drunk, we'll be fine, and everything else. And you perfectly know that you can't swim properly, and you go and jump in the beach and everything else because of the peer pressure. No, you know, you have to be confident in yourself to say, no, this is dangerous for me. I'm not going to do it.
Yes. So, Jason, that brings me, I think it's a very related, similar question. So, sometimes people say no to a thing. It doesn't have any, it's not because, it's because they can't do it at that point in time. There's nothing wrong with it, with saying yes, but it's just that they're not available at this point in time. But there are a lot of people who, this is again kind of falls into that peer pressure kind of a thing. But just pushing that person, keeping on pushing that person to say yes. Like I said, there's nothing wrong coming out of it. It's just that the person gives in because they're tired of saying no. Do you think that is actually pushing on personal boundaries?
Oh, yeah. And it's same
I,
as manipulating a person to say yes. So saying, if you don't say yes, I'm not going to give you XYZ. Um, or if you don't say yes, then you're not going to get to see your kid next weekend if you're in like that parental kind of boundary relationship kind of stuff. Like, that's again not cool, and you're manipulating them. And I guess if you're in that situation where someone's trying to manipulate you, seek support so that way you're okay in that particular situation. Because if you just try and take all that weight of manipulation by yourself, you might, as you said, get worn down, and you might agree to something that you don't want to agree to, but you just feel like you have to because I guess you feel unsupported. So make sure you're seeking that support when you're feeling that kind of stuff. Get your friends around you and get help.
yes, it's wearing people down, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, this is something I really do not like personally. And this is one situation where I find it hard to keep calm, but this is when I stick to a no like anything, because that's just not right. Wearing somebody down is just not right. Now, since we spoke a lot about these kind of boundaries, I just wanted to bring up across something else. Like, again, if you are in a certain space, you want quiet or whatever. Every person has the right to emote in the way they want to, stay silent, talk, whatever. You around that person and trying to control that person's behavior. I think that's also a situation where I would say no. I'd probably take myself away from that situation, but whether there is no option and it is a very enclosed space, you have to make the best use of the space. So, I mean, I think I will come and ask you for an answer for this, because I remember last time you suggested headphones, but what if the person is very loud and headphones can also only block out so much.
Yeah.
What is your
One of the things that I've seen on Facebook a lot lately has been a meme of like the woman going, he's done the wrong thing. I'm going to give him silent treatment all day. And the man sitting there, this is great. She's not saying anything to me. I can get along with and do all the tasks that I want to do today and not get bothered by her. So, like, yeah, you've got that kind of perspective where there's just miscommunication. Like he doesn't know what he's done wrong, but he's like happy that he doesn't have to deal with the nag. And she's not communicating what he's done wrong in a way that he understands. So she's just giving him the silent treatment, and he just doesn't care about the silent treatment. He thinks it's a good thing. So yeah, communication's big. Boundaries is very much on communication, and not about communicating what you need to say. It's more about communicating what you need the other person to hear in a way that they will understand. Um, and if you're just going to rush that conversation at them because you feel like you need to say it, most of the time that other person, unless they really know you, they're just going to be like, wow, I just got bombarded and I don't know why. So make sure that you're preparing yourself, you're preparing the situation, you know what you want to say, and you're probably also asking some critical kind of feedback questions so that other person is giving you the information back that you need, so that way they show that they understand what you're talking about.
Yes, I totally align with what you said. One thing that's personally worked for me is if a situation has upset me in some way, I try not to give this feedback when I'm upset. I just wait for me to calm down first. If it's upset me, it's very possible it's upset the other person because we're talking about close people here. We're talking about relatives, friends,
Yeah.
and family. So if you're upset, it's very likely the other person is upset as well, or has picked up some percentage of how you feel. So the best for me, what I've seen is maybe take a sip of water or calm down a bit and then approach the topic. And like you said, put it across in a language that they can grasp. It could vary with the person. And I don't know if you can give an example. Well and good. There are people who want examples. So if you can give an example, well and good. And very, it cannot be subject, kind of an objective example if you can, because
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like your fault with the other person doing this.
Well,
But
I
yeah,
was actually thinking when you're talking about that, a lot further down the line. So if you've done everything that we've talked about tonight and the relationship is deteriorated to the point that you feel that they have power over you, make sure you go and talk to your GP. Maybe put some plans in place so that way, if your mental health does deteriorate, the right people step in to look after you, and make the right kind of decisions based on those plans that you've put in place. Because last thing that you want is someone to take advantage of you when you're really vulnerable. And if you know that you're in that kind of situation where the personal relationship can be debilitating to you, like it can just totally overwhelm you, make sure you go to your GP and put some plans in place. So that way, if you do get to the point where you can't make decisions for yourself, um, you've made those decisions beforehand and the right people pick up and work with you to get you back on track.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very important. Anyways, Jason, I think you've covered quite a bit in this episode.
Yeah.
Would I mean, do you have anything else to add?
Uh, Not particularly. I'm looking forward to doing a couple of reflection episodes with you on some of the episodes that we've done so far, and maybe talk about how we are going. Definitely one of the big things that I think about with doing a show like this is reflecting on the content that you've put out and maybe seeing if you're hitting a certain type of theme. Maybe if you feel like we are trying to fix people when we don't need to fix people. Whether we're just a bunch of do-gooders just saying all kinds of stuff that sounds really good, but it's not relevant in real people's life. So I'm looking forward to having some hard conversations in the future with you about where we go next with our little talk show program.
I'm curious now, Jason, and excited about it, and I hope viewers also feel the same way about it.
So, if we did say anything tonight that makes you feel particularly upset, please reach out and get some help. If you've just stumbled across this channel because you're having some mental health issues or your mental hygiene isn't quite where you want it to be, the Sane Forums is a good place to start out to just have a chat with people, find out if there's other people that have the same sort of things going on in their life, and connecting with other people that can talk to you and relate to your particular problems. Uh, Please reach out to us on the Mind website if you feel like you need to, via our Facebook, Instagram, something like that. And if you feeling like everything is just getting overwhelming to you, right on top of you, like a big weight on your shoulders, go and see your GP. If you need to, go to the hospital, go and talk to someone. Don't leave it too long. Go and get help, because we want to see you back here next week. Hashida, it has been awesome tonight. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Oh, you're most welcome. My pleasure, Jason, as always.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone out there. And if you would like to donate to us, please go to the MYND Initiative website, hit the donate button. Big thanks to Will for editing tonight. Look forward to seeing all your comments. Thank you, everyone.